It's great to have you with us today. We're going to get into something that, well, it touches all of us, doesn't it? Money. But this isn't going to be your usual chat about markets or interest rates. Not at all. Today, we're taking a real deep dive into the psychology of money, behavior, luck, and long-term wealth. Our goal here is simple. Pull out the absolute key ideas from this material for you. Help you get up to speed, shortcut to the core insights on this really fascinating topic.
Exactly. And what we're looking at based on the source is this really compelling idea that doing well with money, it's actually less about complicated math or economic models. It's much more about understanding human behavior, our own behavior. It's a fresh perspective, definitely. It moves past those sort of traditional, maybe sometimes rigid financial ideas. It kind of invites us to look inward, at our own biases, our motivations, instead of just looking at, say, our investment portfolio.
That idea of looking inward, it really sets a different tone straight away, doesn't it? Because normally when you think finance, you jump to spreadsheets, right? Or complex investment plans, maybe optimizing returns. But the core argument here is that finance is mostly about how we act, about human behavior. That was quite a surprise for me when I first read it. It really shifts things.
Yeah, a key point the source makes is how our own unique backgrounds, our experiences, really shape our financial choices. Profoundly.
Yeah.
It suggests that our personal history, literally rewrites the financial rule book just for us. For instance, the book points to studies, right? People who grew up when inflation was really high, they often hate holding cash their whole lives. Even if it makes sense financially at that moment, their gut reaction, based on the past, is that cash loses value fast.
Right.
Or maybe someone else experienced a big market crash when they were young. They might end up being super cautious, too risk-averse maybe, and potentially miss out on growth over the long haul. These aren't just little stories. They're experiences that genuinely affect financial decisions years, even decades later.
Wow, that really makes you stop and think, yeah. So if our past shapes us so much, does the book give us ways to spot those biases or maybe manage them? How do you even start separating what you've lived from what might be, objectively the rational thing to do?
Well, it does, sort of implicitly. The first step, really, as the source suggests, is just awareness. Understanding that your personal experience, it isn't universal. It's powerful for you, sure, but it's not necessarily the perfect guide for everyone's finances. It encourages a bit of humility, I think, and understanding that rational financial decisions often involve walking this kind of emotional tightrope. It pushes us to question those gut feelings, to think, okay, is my past coloring this decision in a way that's maybe not helpful right now?
Okay, that makes sense. Awareness first. And that point about past experiences, it leads us into another really interesting area the book covers, luck and risk. Their roles in how things turn out financially, which are often, let's be honest, kind of downplayed. It really challenges that classic story of pure meritocracy. Work hard enough and financial success is guaranteed. While effort and skill are crucial, absolutely, this material says, hey, there's quite a bit more going on.
Oh, absolutely right. Luck and risk, they're tangled together, aren't they? And crucially, we often overlook them when we look at financial success, ours or someone else's. The source is pretty clear. Achieving financial goals isn't just about skill or how hard you work. There's a huge element of things we just can't control, like maybe being born in a stable country or having good schools available or just, right place, right time kind of stuff. These things outside of us can give us a huge boost or really hold us back, regardless of our own efforts. Which brings up a big question, doesn't it? How do we account for all that unpredictability when we're planning our finances? And how do we square the role of chance with our need to feel like we have some control?
That is a deep question.
Yeah.
If we accept that luck and risk play these big roles, how does that change how we see wealth? How we get it, but also, maybe more importantly, how we view other people's wealth. Maybe it brings a little more humility when things go well for us. Recognizing, maybe we had some tailwinds helping out. And definitely more empathy for people who've struggled, even when they've tried really hard. It shifts the focus, I think, from just individual brilliance to a bigger, more complex picture.
Yeah.
Lots of factors involved.
Exactly. It helps us move away from thinking financial success is purely like a moral reward for hard work, towards something more realistic, acknowledging systems and, just pure random chance sometimes. Now, the book isn't saying, oh, well, just give up then. Not at all. It's more about having a grounded view. Understand that sometimes the best strategy is putting yourself in a position where good luck can find you and insulating yourself as best you can from bad luck, from risk. It's about seeing the whole landscape. not just your own footprints in the sand.
Makes sense. Seeing the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about something I think a lot of us grapple with, maybe without fully realizing its impact. That human tendency to always compare ourselves to others, and that constant push for more. You know that feeling, right? You reach a goal, feel good for maybe 5 minutes, then you look over your shoulder, see what someone else has, and suddenly your achievement feels less. Not quite enough.
Precisely. And the source really digs into the dangers of that behavior. It's quite clear. If you connect it to the bigger picture, like you said, this constant comparison, it can become a real psychological trap. It makes genuine satisfaction incredibly hard to find, and it often leads to bad decisions. We might take on way too much risk or stretch our finances too thin, maybe sacrifice long-term security, all just trying to keep up with or beat some constantly moving target set by other people, whether it's real or just what we perceive on, say, social media. The book argues that enough just isn't really a concept in that mindset. And if you don't have your own definition of enough, those goalposts for feeling satisfied, they'll just keep shifting further away. It becomes this game you play against yourself, really.
Yeah.
And you kind of always set up to feel like you're falling short.
It's so easy to get caught in it, too. Like, imagine someone saves diligently, feels pretty good about their retirement plan, secure. Then, boom, they see a friend posting about some super flashy new car or this massive round-the-world trip online. And that little voice creeps in that, maybe I should have more. Maybe I deserve that, too. And that feeling, that external pressure, it might push them to chase riskier investments, aiming for a higher return to get that same lifestyle, even if their original, more sensible plan was perfectly fine for their actual goals. That endless chase for more, driven by comparing, it can seriously derail a perfectly good financial path. You end up swapping peace of mind for just constant striving.
Yeah, the book really hammers home that point. That often the truly wealthy people aren't just the ones with the biggest numbers. They're the ones who figured out what enough means for them. And then, crucially, they have the discipline to stick to that. Their real power isn't just the balance sheet. It's their ability to basically opt out of that endless game of keeping up with the Joneses. And that frees them up, right? To focus on what actually matters to them, not just what society seems to expect.
Right, opting out of the game. I like that. So, okay, those are some of the traps, the challenges, but the book definitely offers some really powerful, positive principles for building wealth that lasts. And one really fundamental idea, it champions one that's maybe easy to forget in our fast world, is the quiet strength of compounding, achieved through just being consistent over the long term. This isn't just about interest on interest technically, it's about that incredible exponential growth that happens over decades. Often just by doing something quite simple, maybe even boring, leaving your investments alone to do their thing. The book even points to people like Warren Buffett. Say a huge chunk of his wealth isn't just smarts, but the fact he had decades and decades for compounding to work its magic. Starting early, staying put.
Which leads nicely into another really critical distinction the source makes. It separates getting rich from staying rich. And it emphasizes these are really different skills. They need different approaches, different temperaments, different kinds of discipline. Getting rich, that often involves taking chances, being optimistic, spotting opportunities, maybe even being a bit bold, But staying rich, that's more about being cautious. It's about humility. It's about being keenly aware that what you've built can disappear. And it probably will disappear if you keep taking the same aggressive risks that got you there in the first place. And beyond that, the material points to time and control as the real measures of wealth. Moving beyond just, the pile of assets. What's really fascinating here is how the source totally reframes wealth. It's not just a number in your bank account. It's the freedom, the autonomy that having control over your time gives you in your life.
That is a huge shift in how we usually think about it. So if real wealth, true prosperity, is defined more by time and control, how would someone actually start, rethinking their financial goals through that lens? It suggests that, okay, patiently letting your investments grow and compound over many years, that's the time part. And then having the freedom to choose how you spend your days, maybe how you work, what projects you take on, what risks feel right to you, that's the control part. These things are maybe more valuable, a better sign of being truly prosperous than just chasing the absolute highest balance possible. It's about living rich, not just being rich on paper, by valuing those intangible freedoms more.
Exactly. The practical way to apply it is to shift your focus. Maybe less on squeezing out every single last percentage point of return, and more on optimizing for the kind of life you actually want to live. Do you want to work less? Have more flexibility day to day? Pursue something you're passionate about, even if it doesn't pay as much? These are the kinds of outcomes that having time and control make possible. The book encourages you to ask yourself, how much is my time really worth to me? How much control do I truly want over my own life and decisions? And then let those answers guide your financial strategy, rather than just comparing yourself to external benchmarks of success.
Which brings us really nicely to the last big principle we wanted to unpack today, the idea of flexible financial planning. So what does all this psychology stuff mean for your actual financial journey day to day? It's not saying ditch your plans entirely, but maybe build in some wiggle room, some
Now,
adaptability.
precisely. The thinking behind this is deeply practical, actually. It understands that prioritizing peace of mind over perfect rationality is often the smarter play in the long run. What does that mean? It means choosing a financial plan you can actually live with, one you can stick to, one that gives you some breathing space and cuts down on stress, even if, yeah, maybe a spreadsheet could show a theoretically better plan that's just way too aggressive or demanding for real life. The source is very clear that personal values matter. And also that life happens, right? Unexpected things crop up, health scares, job changes, family needs, or maybe just your own priorities shifting over time. All these things massively impact your financial path. So those super rigid, perfectly optimized plans, they might look great on paper, but they often just fall apart in the face of real life's messiness. The argument is that a good enough plan that you consistently follow will always beat a perfect plan that you end up abandoning because it's too stressful or just doesn't fit your life anymore.
That feels like such a valuable, almost liberating insight. It brings us right back to that core idea about human behavior, doesn't it? A plan that actually allows for life's curveballs, that has some buffers built in for the unexpected, and crucially, one that supports your mental well-being. That's just going to be way more sustainable, way more beneficial over the long haul, more so than some plan that demands absolute perfection and makes you feel guilty or stressed when, inevitably, life doesn't go exactly according to script. It's about creating a financial life that genuinely works for you, for your peace of mind, not one you're constantly fighting against.
Yeah, it's about designing a financial life that's resilient. Financially resilient, yes, but psychologically resilient too. The mental energy, the cost of trying to force yourself to stick to an overly rigid plan, that can easily outweigh any small financial edge you might theoretically gain. The book really challenges us to think, how much of our mental bandwidth, our peace, are we willing to trade away for a plan that might not even handle life's bumps gracefully, especially when a more adaptable approach could actually offer more strength, less stress in the end?
Wow, what an incredibly useful deep dive this has been. Feels like we covered a lot of ground. Let's just quickly recap some of those key takeaways we pulled from the psychology of money today. First off, that big one. Managing money successfully, it's really more about understanding our behavior than just crunching numbers. Second, luck and risk. They play huge, often ignored roles in how things turn out, which maybe calls for more humility and empathy. Third, watch out for that trap of endless comparison, that constant chase for more. It rarely leads to feeling good, often just leaves you feeling not enough. Fourth, true wealth isn't just about the final number. It's measured much more meaningfully by time and control, boosted by that quiet power of long-term compounding. And finally, prioritize your peace of mind. Choose flexible financial planning that acknowledges life is unpredictable and that your values matter more than chasing some theoretical perfection. These ideas, they really push you to think differently about what financial success even means, don't they? I really hope they give you some food for thought, maybe shift your own perspective in a helpful way.
And maybe just to build on that last point, consider what enough really means to you, personally, beyond just the dollars and cents. Think about how defining that for yourself, aligning it with your values, your desire for freedom and control, how that personal definition might just be your most powerful financial tool, guiding your choices with hopefully a lot more clarity and peace of mind.
That's a perfect thought to mull over this week. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.